At this point, I'm going to call the petitioners up. I have a whole stack of cards representing folks that are part of the petition, and you are all included in that 30 minutes. No double dipping here. So, Mr. Benderson, are you going to come up or call your team up or whatever you wish? We do, by the way, have mics here, so if at some point several people want to come up, that's okay too.
Okay. Thank you. I am Randy Benderson, Managing Director of Benderson Development, and I have signed the card. Thank you for your time today and the opportunity to present our project, University Town Center. I would also like to take a moment to thank the members of the board for all the consideration we were given on January 12th. The 2.5-hour meeting was extremely productive and allowed our team to detail our responses to the board's concerns and review all the wonderful enhancements we have made to our project. We realize we are asking you to explore some of the public-private partnership ideas outside our boundaries, but we are not asking you to commit to those. Whatever you decide in the future, and we decide together, this is a public-private partnership, many aspects of it, we will live with. If you feel DeSoto Road should be moved north, which we don't, and Stefanos will show why, if you feel that, it will be moved north. So we are not anything outside the boundaries. We realize there's public-private partnership agreements to be worked out and finalized between us. We will start our presentation today with one of the world's foremost new urbanists, Stefano Polyzoides. Over the past several years, we have spent a tremendous amount of time with many of the country's top architects, but we have learned the most from Stefanos. In fact, that would be a good slogan for him. We would like to start our presentation with Stefanos, who has truly made a good project great. Stefanos.
Thank you, Randy, and good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this morning. I'm here to give you a summary of the presentation I gave a couple of weeks ago, and I would like to believe that the point I began with then is relevant today as well, and that is that a project of this magnitude in this location with the ingredients it possesses really begins to address for you as a county the issue of placemaking as the core idea of development, and not just the throwing together of programs, couch as couch can. And if one accepts the notion that placemaking becomes a fundamental point of departure for recasting the form of the county, then the debate gets shifted from the typical strategy of, well, if it was only 10% less or 15% less or 3 cars less or this less, it would be better, to a debate of what degree of integration, what degree of synergy, what kind of ingredient for pulling this together would make it in fact better, not so much independent of size but because of size. So the qualities we're after are going to come up, I think, out of the pulling together all this elements that I will be proposing, rather than the isolating or the modifying or the eliminating of any one of them. A very simple theoretical framework, 5 ideas. Connectivity, in the sense that opening up multiple ways of circulation of various modes within a project basically allows access and the proper functioning of this various modes and the various uses together. Everything that we do needs to end up in an urban structure that renders public space. I'm sure you have this experience in many fabulous historic and traditional concepts and places in Florida. For 50 years we build buildings loose in space. What we want to do is we want to build buildings that actually, as they get built, generate that space. Urbanism is the space between buildings. Architecture is actually the making of single buildings. Placemaking depends on open space formation and its landscape. Everything that we do in mixed-use development has to do with the arraying of uses within a compact, walkable precinct of about roughly quarter mile in radius, so that a variety of building types, a variety of uses, a variety of adjacencies need to be encountered within that quarter mile. It's this crunching together of life and activity and the transportation systems that support it within the smallest increment of space that allows urban places to evolve. Within that district of a quarter mile, there needs to be a great deal of both architectural and typological and place variety. And finally, there needs to be a framework built both of sustainable buildings and sustainable infrastructure and sustainable transportation means, including people's feet, that drives this project towards the greatest goal of sustainability, which is permanence. Whatever we make needs to be there forever, like downtown Sarasota, and not like the strips we built between Sarasota and Venice that I witnessed this morning driving over to come here to speak to you. I also want to frame my comments from the perspective, as I did last time, of this being experimental on the one hand, but not entirely new. There are both great, and I underline the word great, historic places, including the town we're in, that come out with tradition of such placemaking, including its retail, and there are new projects in many places in Florida that actually have been made recently and are functioning profitably on the private side and expansively on the public benefit side, and I think those are precedents that we're going to take very much into consideration. And now on my narrow presentation on the project, a very important aspect of the scheme is that it's actually district size, quarter of a mile in radius. It can combine all the ingredients I spoke about. That's a unique and extraordinary opportunity. Within that, I want to point out to you, for the benefit of some of you who did not remember or know this subject, that there's a major right-of-way, utility right-of-way, high-tension wire right-of-way in the middle of the project. And this is the Kettleman right-of-way as well, which is one that we're trying to modify to some extent, but which has to some extent find its way on the west side of the right-of-way. So those are two fundamental, large-scale constraints that need to be accounted for in this project. The way we reformed the project in the last month was in casting it as a very intimate network of streets, blocks, and lots within the blocks, including the mall, so that over time, and particularly under form-based code provision, this area could evolve continuously. I think it's an important thing for you to think from your perspective and the perspective of your constituents, how to cast this project today, tomorrow, and for the next 5 years. But actually, the long-term life of this project is at least as important as the decision to do it now. So there needs to be in place an urban framework, an urban structure that sustains this growth of the time. For example, in 25 years, the land value might be large enough to take the wires underground, or a technology might come about that eliminates the wires. And at that point, the remaining land should be there in a structure that can sustain proper and orderly development. On the use side, I want to point out to you up front that we are seeing the power center pretty much unchanged because of commitments made to actually develop that way on the west side of the project. The mall is in this location with its parking behind, hidden by the large grove of trees. This stand of trees I also visited yesterday, and I'm absolutely certain that this part of the site will not be visible from the highway. There is a liner building, a building attached to the mall on this side that actually begins to generate the main street. So this is retail on the ground floor and office above. This color is a commercial mixed-use color, so there's retail and commerce on here as well. There's a hotel in this corner, a small one and a larger one here. There's retail lining the edges of the hotel. The retail comes around the main street here with a multiplex there. There is a garage plus street parking that services this portion of the commercial project. These are live-work units, housing on the light ochre, and then possibly office in this corner, and on this side around the roundabout, retail that is what we call the glue that connects basically and directs entrances to the principal points of retail entrance for this larger project surrounding it. And all of this, as I pointed out in my theoretical comments, contained within the quarter-mile radius and compactly arranged within a road system that, as you see from this slide, connects everything to everything, and a pedestrian system that allows people to walk from everywhere to everywhere. Now, looking back at this drawing, it is also important to note, and Jim Desa, whose comments will follow mine, will talk about this in some greater detail, that one of the important aspects of this project is it continues the arterial network of the county by allowing both DeSoto and Cattleman to come through this project and service it, and by allowing multiple ways in and out of this precinct, while at the same time developing the form of this roads in a pedestrian-friendly way. So, hopefully, part of a form-based code of an arrangement regarding standards for this project would be the casting of the streets in their appropriate form, which is both car, transit, and pedestrian supportive. The time has come to begin to think again about road making as being an aspect of development, not an aspect of moving cars and cars alone. A significant addition to the project was the inclusion of a transit center, which you see located off Cattleman right here, a couple of bus stops for lines for both Manatee and Sarasota County buses moving through the site, and then a loop road, which does not have to be in exactly this configuration, a similar configuration that connects all the pieces of this puzzle together and allows people the possibility of parking once and experiencing the site in a variety of other modes. The open space framework is a particularly important aspect of the project because there are at least 2 or 3 different kinds of open space. There's the space that is dedicated to conservation, which is on the edges and left to various purposes, the least of which probably is being used extensively by people. Then there are parks that are distributed in some form or another throughout the project, and then there's the question of the public park on the lake. And I want to some extent to address the comments of Mr. Thaxton. It seems to me that the primary public benefit of including a road in the park is that in the interest of integration, we wish to bring the park into the project and the park into the county. In other words, the width of the park is almost half a mile from Cattleman to the freeway. And if there is no road and there is no parking to get into the park, it is very difficult, if not impossible, for people to actually come in, by car, of course, and be able to take advantage of it. Similarly, I think it is very important for people who actually live in this project come through to this park. And it strikes me that because this is unlike your analogy of two private parties actually living next to each other and having to accommodate the making of a road. I think you should read this as not a situation where we have a shortage of loaves, but one in which we can actually bake more loaves, because this is a situation in which the lake is unfinished, is a work in progress. The county is actually floating a whole road through it. Cattleman right away goes through this lake. The form of it is incomplete on the edges. It needs to be formed better. There are all kinds of environmental projects that need to be actually carried out there in order to bring it up to a level of performance that's acceptable. And it might very well be that as part of this process of framing the edges, that we enlarge the land against the lake to some degree, maybe to make up for the amount of land that's being taken by the road, or maybe even to make a larger park, even more significant park. I think there is the possibility here of making a very significant park, a very beautiful park, maybe on the east side near the freeway, with this road providing access to it. It is a unique opportunity for this thing to become something other than a leftover piece, which it could become, or which it typically becomes in the case of an integrated suburban projects, into a major public park, which is both appropriate in size and in form and connected by car and by pedestrian traffic. And finally, the massing of the project itself. These are actually, for now, large one-story buildings. The garage is 2 stories in the back. These are 2-story commercial buildings. These are mostly 2-, 3-, and 4-story residential buildings, and these again are in part 3- and 4-story residential buildings, and in part higher-rise, mid-rise buildings, I should say, to be precise, up to 85 feet. And one of our commitments was to actually press the height of the building down and spread the building to make appropriate block sizes and appropriate public space within the project. And again, I think you should recognize that in this drawing we're showing these green lines inside the parking garage, and the parking lots, excuse me. I will talk to that in 1 second. And these are the images produced in the charrette in December that show, for instance, in this case, the main street with parking on the ground floor, with retail activities on the ground floor as well, and with mixed-use office lofts above. This is a very similar view, 90 degrees, from the other one that shows an enlarged entrance, prominent entrance to the mall with 3- and 4-story liners on the main street. And finally, again, an enlargement of the mall entrance on the west side, showing a very highly landscaped entrance from the roundabout with both trees and flowers and a continuous pedestrian arcade for protection from the weather, enabling east-west traffic. Now, a project of this kind, in order to be mature and complete and to make the claim that it's about district making and not about building making, has to attend heavily to the question of the public realm. And the public realm here has a number of dimensions. Has a dimension of conservation, I spoke about before, has a dimension of this public-private park and the esplanade in it, which showed a pavilion inside the park, which showed a fishing pier, and perhaps even other facilities for enjoying the lake could be included here. There is actually parks here. There is, for instance, a park here with a mercado on it, with a market that I will talk about in a moment. And most importantly, I think, there is an understanding that street hierarchy and street quality is made by appropriate choice of street materials. So this is a preliminary list and a preliminary diagram of street tree form and street tree palettes for making that public space right. Drawings that you've seen before. This is the market looking north and west towards the main street, with the entrance to the movie house, to the multiplex on the right, and then a view of the esplanade. And I think this view of the esplanade, Commissioner Paxton, is the one that probably expresses more than any other the fundamental reason for allowing a road and parking, which you can see to the right of this perspective, to be allowed in this area, because this is the only way in which you can ever get this kind of place and this kind of appreciation and enjoyment of this place to happen with this many people. It is really a way for getting not only the people who live here, but people from all over the county and visitors and others to actually come to the edge of the water in a way that is inviting and positive through the making of an esplanade of this kind, and perhaps even a beach and the pier structure that you see here.
Excuse me. So the road's pretty close there to the edge. Are you saying if it were a little further away, it would attract fewer people?
Actually, there was no provision when we received the plan for an extension of DeSoto, and the distance between Campbellman and the freeway is almost half a mile, which is a distance that nobody would ever walk to come to a lakefront. You would have to have some way for people to penetrate by car and come and park in a place like this, or park inside the town center and walk down to this place. And then
is that parking over on the right? Because I don't.
Yes, there is a road with parking. This parking would also be diagonal parking if we so choose.
The road is further away still.
The road is about 200 to 300 feet away from the waterfront, and it may be possible to park there diagonally or otherwise. And again, I think the details of this are subject to discussion about the size of the park, the arrangements of the park, the function of the park. But I think the possibility of making this a premier park in the county are very real, it seems to me, in a public-private partnership.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
As we look at this, it also becomes multimodal, does it not? Because you're connecting. That's the problem I think they have the city in Sarasota. The bayfront is detached from the city because of this massive road called 41. Here we're connecting it. You can come from the west. You can bike it. You can walk it coming from the west and or from the south. residential areas. I mean, it's well within striking distance of a lot of people living in that area. And I think with the multimodal or the bus, I think the bus route goes by here also.
Yes.
So they could hop on wherever they are, stop there, walk to the water. So I think the roadway is critical to pull it together.
And on the sustainability side, I think our team has made a commitment to investigate these three subjects. I think the easiest of these is inclusion of native landscape, and the next easiest one is the making of a stormwater management system that's actually a recycling system, particularly in the parking lots. And the third, and perhaps more challenging but very interesting subject, is to begin to build buildings that have a shelf life longer than 10 years. And that is a subject I think we're going to be very eagerly investigate in the next period of time. And
Excuse me, if you don't mind, Commissioner Staub.
Well, it's good to say investigate. However, I mean, it's proven that retail really is better when you have the green building because of the lighting. People spend more money, plus the cost savings of operating the building, and the employees are healthier, less turnover, the whole thing. So when we say investigate, I would prefer to see a commitment to building green, which would not have to be, let's say, all LEED certified, because that has become and brought to my attention an exorbitant amount of money to get certified. So there's possibilities of doing all the elements in order to qualify for LEED without actually getting the certification. So I would like to see more than an investigation. I'd like to see a commitment. And, you know, I'm not saying LEED Platinum or LEED Gold or whatever, but to integrate all those, as many as possible, green elements in every building, because I think it's important for your future.
The reason why my words were measured on the subject was because by investigate I meant determining what level of greenness each building would be built to, instead of making a fixed commitment. I think.
Be very careful what you say to us.
Yes, I understand. I appreciate your passion on the subject.
Okay, I am starting the clock again. At this,
I'm finished. Actually, I am done.
More minutes.
I'm done. I think this was a perspective of the swales, the recycling system for stormwater. I think the subject has been discussed already. I will skip over it, and I just simply want to remind you, in finishing my comments, that placemaking as the basis of designing a new district, greater design integration of the project on a project-wide basis, emphasis on sustainability, conservation, and native landscape, greater connectivity for all modes, expansion of transit, and the possibility of enlarging the traffic capture within the project, reduction of height to 85 feet, expansion of work, live, and office facilities, redistribution of the built fabric and the form of the place, increase in the number of parks and streets, and integration into a network of public space, and making parking lots into water gardens. These were the essential points of criticism of you and your staff that we actually took as a point of departure and incorporated into the casting of the new project. Thank you for your time, and I would ask Jim Desa to come, and I'm sure we're all going to be open for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you.